Good morning, everybody. This is Ryan, back at it again with another Limoto's Weird Talk Show. Episode 5, I believe. I considered that PlayStation 2 one we did a few weeks ago as basically episode 4, So yeah, welcome back, everybody. And hopefully you all have been enjoying the videos I have been uploading lately. I've been getting back into the groove of it, and I'm hoping to do more this summer. So anyway, let's get into it because we got quite a big topic today. And that is the Terminator franchise. Now, I'll be completely honest, there is going to be another part to this video. I'm probably going to make this a two-parter episode. Why? Because I wanted to make this video after I'd uploaded the first video, which talked about the original 3 Terminator films. Now the question is, why is that one not uploaded yet? Or by the time this is uploaded, it may not be uploaded. That's simple because I'm having a friend edit that one because it's quite different than this one. It's different in a different sense. You'll see it. I'm not trying to spoil it or anything, but let's just say it will have a bit of like a different perspective than what's normally been done with these videos. So if anything, that original video will be out after this one or after that one. My friend's almost done editing that, so. But anyway, so this is going to be a two-parter because I'm going to be basically talking about the entire Terminator franchise, all 6 movies that we have seen or have not seen, and I have just recently got into back in like last month with the first movie, and basically worked my way up all the way up to Dark Fate. So let me get started by saying I was originally not going to watch the modern trilogy of Terminator films because, just quick spoiler, Terminator 3, painfully bad, painfully decent. Just like, it did not strike me fancy. Like, I love Terminator 1 and 2, but Terminator 3 was like a slap to the face, and I'm like, ugh. Now I'm worried about, like, the actual modern movies that came out after, what was it called? Rise of the Machines, the 3rd movie. So that was hard, but then my friends talked me into it. I'm like, alright, fine, I'll check it out, why not? And just to hop right in, let's talk about the first one that came out of these 3, and that is Salvation, which has, of course, Batman in it, of all things. I guess, like, initial impression about the film, let me just start by saying this was the film that I saw getting so much press and so much attention back in, like, early 2000s. Like, I'm pretty sure this movie came out in, like, 2008, 2009. Holy crap, dude. This movie, like, was everywhere. There were trailers, there were TV commercials, there was, I believe, toys. Hell, I'm pretty sure there were video games. There was, like, a couple video games based off this movie. Like, everything was riding on Salvation. And initially, I never went to go see the movie because I was just never a big fan of Terminator. I've never seen the Terminator movies up until now. So it's like, it just passed me. And then watching it, like, God, how many years now? Like, for the first time in, like, since 2008 when it released and I never watched it. I will admit, I kind of was going in with low expectations because of Terminator 3. Terminator 3 was, like, the real, like, pincushion for this trilogy for me. I'm like, how much lower are we going to get compared to Terminator 3? And thankfully, sort of thankfully, that Salvation was not terrible, but it wasn't great. I feel like it was very, very rough in the beginning. Like, holy crap, dude. Just the opening sections where it's just like, you know, we get introduced to John Connor and just like this weird, like, modern take on the war after Judgment Day was kind of weird, honestly, and it kind of went by so goddamn fast that I'm just like, okay, so much is happening. And then we meet this other dude, which, quite frankly, I'm gonna have to be doing searches and all that stuff in between this video, because it's like, these movies have the same problem as the 3 other movies as well. You know what that is? It is because freaking there are so many characters in this franchise that are just so expendable that you just can't. You just can't honestly just keep track of all of them because they either die, they get thrown into the side, and that happens a lot with Salvation as well. There is a lot of characters that are just thrown away in this film, and you're supposed to think they're important, but they're not really. They're not truly important, and they weren't important to me. Like, all the soldiers working for John Connor, and all the other, like, resistance fighters, and all the people just, trying to survive it out in the world after Judgment Day, and even most importantly, freaking John Connor's wife. There's just a lot of characters I'm just like, what's the point of you? Are you gonna die? Are you gonna get captured? What's your point? What's your point, honestly? And quite frankly, there was just not really a point to it. There really wasn't. So right off the bat, like, most of the time you're spent, it is either with John Connor or Marcus Wright, aka the, like, I guess, prototype humanoid Terminator. Okay. So the opening was weird because we get to meet Marcus Wright, played by Sam Warrington, and it's like, I guess he wanted to die, but then he'd, like, let the government use his body to become a Terminator or some shit. That truthfully was never explained, not even in the finale, but it's just this weird back and forth in the beginning between the two sides, between John Connor and Marcus Wright. It's just a weird back and forth. John Connor fighting for the human resistance, they're fighting for the future, but then you have Marcus that is just walking around, not knowing what to do. He's a walking dead man, and he doesn't even realize that he's a Terminator. And it wasn't until the fact he met up with Kyle Reese, of all characters, and quite frankly, I feel like this is the only second best interpretation of Kyle Reese outside of the first Terminator film, where, he's much younger, he's a lot more sporadic, he's got energy to him, but at the same time he is very, very unpredictable. And just, and Kyle Reese, we don't even get that much time with Kyle Reese, I'm gonna be honest. I can't remember one thing I liked about Kyle Reese in Salvation. Especially, I kind of liked the little girl that was like, she couldn't speak or something, or she was deaf. She was kind of an interesting character, but again, she was kind of gimmicky. She was kind of a gimmicky character, but again, it's just the first half of this movie is just a rough introduction into, like, what the world is for Salvation, what it really is after Judgment Day. And that's not even complimenting it. I'm just saying, like, it's difficult to get attached to anybody when they're literally doing nothing but talking, walking around, trying to avoid Terminators, and nothing else is really happening. And it doesn't really pick up until after Marcus Wright and I guess that one, like, resistance fighter, what was her name? I guess, like, Serena, I guess? No, not Serena. What the hell was her name? Oh, yeah, Blair. It was Blair, I believe. Yeah, it was Blair. So, like, after they return back to the base, and then Marcus and John find out that Marcus is actually a Terminator, like, he's not actually human, that's when the movie got a little more interesting. Got quite a bit more interesting. The action was still wonky at that point, though. Like, holy shit. How does, like, a whole resistance force fail to take out one person in a half Terminator? I don't understand. I don't understand how that action scene just got like that, but it happened, and then it just turned to the point that John Connor's like, alright, I hate you, but I'm gonna use you. I'm gonna have you sneak into Skynet, and you're gonna tell me where they're hiding Kyle Reese. And then it leads into my favorite part of the entire movie, which is the third act. And the third act, I feel like definitely brings the movie together. It actually brings it to a point where it actually feels the most original out of the modern trilogy. So if you don't know, Kyle Reese, like, halfway through the movie, he got captured by Skynet, and they're planning to off him off with a bunch of other human prisoners as well. Or probably, like, I don't know, put him into slave labor or something. But John Connor basically strikes a deal with Marcus, saying, hey, I need you to sneak into Skynet because you are a Terminator, and get Kyle Reese out of there, but I'm also gonna get in there and... Yeah. No, I'm sorry. You get into Skynet, you lower their defenses, I'm going in to save Kyle Reese, and we're gonna get the hell out of there. And that's what basically happened. There are things, of course, obviously, that, stop this plan from time to time, like, they put Kyle Reese in a different prison room, and then we get to see absolute unit Arnold Schwarzenegger, just 1986 buff again. No schlong this time, though, unfortunately. Fighting John Connor. But then we get to see the exoskeleton, which is always so cool to see a Terminator's exoskeleton coming out of human flesh. And then it's just a huge prison breakout that is, like, it's so well done. But it also works as well because at the same time, we get a focus on Marcus Wright. Am I right? Yeah, Marcus Wright, sorry. Marcus Wright, Phoenix Wright, I don't remember that, but it's just Marcus Wright finding out what actually happened to him after he basically asked for the death penalty before Judgment Day, and how he became a Terminator, and the fact that he's just like, screw you, this is my future, this is my life. And just as like, he just rips the chip out of his head that Skynet was controlling him with, even after they already repaired him. That's when I'm like, ooh, okay, so this is good stuff right here. And then we get John Connor and Marcus Wright teaming up to take out some Terminators that were trying to kill them, and Kyle Reese. And then it leads into one of my more personal favorite, like, close encounter fights in the entire series. And I think one of my favorite scenes out of that fight is where the Terminator, I think it's a T-100, that was about to go back to the past, he just, like, one-punches Marcus Wright's heart. And I'm just like, ooh, that's brutal, that's so cool. And then it has, like, you know, John Connor just, like, on the line, fighting for his life, trying to kill the Terminator. He, like, burnt him through lava, he tried freezing him, and then you just see, as soon as he takes him out, his face gets clawed in by the Terminator. And I'm just like, oh, that is so satisfying. That is so cool, honestly. The rest of the fight was good as well, but it's like, those were the most noteworthy parts of that fight. And then, God, what was it? And then at the end, you know, it kind of died down. It's like, okay, we get all these forgettable characters, and we get to see, like, what the future is going to be like, you know, since now John Connor and Kyle Reese get to meet each other, and Kyle Reese is now part of the Resistance. And the fact that Marcus sacrifices himself to save John from dying, like basically a heart transplant. It's quite good, honestly. It is quite good. That's when I felt like, you know, there's hope. There was hope with this movie. I feel like we could get a sequel, and they could ride on what was good about that third act. Good action, good pacing, and, like, you know, good character development as well, even though it was kind of maybe just a little far south. Like, again, you don't get to know these characters quite well until the third half. You really don't, and especially Marcus, because he roams around as an enigma. You don't know who he is. But then you find out, of course, obviously, before the third act, but at the same time, you don't truly understand why. But then it's that fact that, you know, he just decides, well, I'm not going to be Skynet's property, I'm going to help the Resistance. Because, you know, Kyle Reese is a pretty cool guy, and also is a little friend and all that stuff, so... You know, the third act was really good, and it did give me hope, because I'm like, this is by far the most original out of the 6 movies. It's by far the most original. I guess that's giving it a little too much credit. It's the most original out of the whole modern trilogy of Terminator films, because if we all know, the next 2 movies that came out after it basically are repeats and, like, different scenarios that could have taken place in the original films. But I'm not going to try to get into that too much, but again, just the bad parts about this film, you don't really get to know anybody, truthfully, and some action scenes are like, whatever, and it's not really all brought together until the third act, where it's just like, there's actual interesting stuff going on. There's actual interesting development and action and set pieces. The music was definitely helping for that as well. And it just gave me hope. And it's like, it's the very idea that you get a movie, what the human war, what the Resistance versus Skynet war looks like after Judgment Day. The war after Judgment Day. What a scenario that happens to be. And it's quite interesting. It is quite interesting. It is the most original by far, but at the same time, it lacks a lot of stuff that made me interested in the original movies, and definitely loved the first 2 movies. But I will give it to its credit, it is not as much of a slouch fest as Terminator 3. It was not. It did have great action scenes, and it did have far better characters than T3, but again, for what it's worth, I felt like it was a good attempt to bring back the series, like 5 years later or something after T3? Yeah, T3. Yeah, 2005. No. 2003 was when Terminator 3 came out, or some shit like that. I'm sorry. I can't look this all up at once, but anyway. Now, honestly, where I would rank Salvation among the 6 films, I would personally give it third place. Right there, second place with T1, and first place with T2. Because again, it feels the most original. It feels like a fresh idea, but it just wasn't given its full potential. Which, as we see in the next two films, that potential really starts to fizzle out quite a lot. So hopping right into Terminator Genisys, which came out in 2015, I had way less hope for this film than I did with Salvation. I didn't even doubt myself that this film was going to be good because I knew off the bat there was going to be stuff I did not like. Like, one, this movie got like no attention whatsoever when it came out back in 2015. Nobody talked about this film. And secondly, it's just the fact that a cover art like we see on the screen, it's just like, we just have... Okay, I thought that girl on the screen, I thought she was going to be a brand new original character. I thought she was going to be, but no, it turns out it's just a younger Sarah Connor. And spoiler warning, and to be quite frank, I don't even care anybody because I highly don't recommend Genisys. It's painfully bad, and there's maybe probably only one good idea throughout the entire movie, which we'll get into now. The big selling point about this movie is the idea of what happens when Kyle Reese or Skynet just really messes up the timeline one too many times. Like, when somebody goes back in time, we all know the butterfly effect, right? If you go back in time, and if you change something, like you step on a butterfly, or you like kill somebody, you kill a mother or a boy, you're changing time. You're gonna change it indefinitely. There's gonna be a massive effect in the future. Like, out of your control. And Genisys has that perfect idea of just the future being so screwed up. It's just like, it's interesting to think, like, what if Kyle Reese went back in time and, like, he found out, oh, wait a minute, where's Sarah Connor? Wait, where are the Terminators? I don't understand. But then it's like he gets transported back into a different future, and it's like, shit has changed. But my problem is, the idea of just, like, all this time-hopping stuff, and how it just screws up the timeline, great idea, I'm a big fan of it. It is poorly executed in this film, because of just terrible dialogue and terrible character interaction, and even less development compared to Salvation. Like, let me put it into perspective. So, the first 10 minutes is basically, no, less than the first 10 minutes is just dedicated to John Connor acting like a smug ass in front of Kyle Reese, as Kyle Reese is about to go back in time to go protect Sarah Connor from the Terminator. But then it's just the idea that apparently, like, somebody attacked John Connor just before Kyle disappeared back into the past. I'm like, oh, okay. But as soon as he gets back to the past, it plays out like the first film. Like, he runs from the cops, he runs into the mall and all that. But the first encounter he has with a police officer, and then it's just like that police officer is like, you're supposed to arrive here in this time, Kyle Reese. And you find out it's a fucking Terminator, but more insultingly, it's a T-1000 in 1984. Like, I'm like, the fuck? Why? Why do we have a T-1000? Why do we have two Terminators in the past? Why? And then it just leads into this weird, like, chase that basically plays out as Terminator 1, but would truly be bullshit because it's a T-1000 chasing goddamn Kyle Reese, who wouldn't even know how to fight a T-1000 unless there were that kind of Terminators in the future. Like, it just made no sense. Like, I get it, it's like the time's distorted and all that, time paradoxes, but it's like, why? Could you not think of anything different? Do you not think of, like, a different kind of Terminator or something? And then you get busting through the mall, you just see a young Sarah Connor. They're just, fighting that T-1000. And then just apparently, I guess it dies like 10 minutes later. And then you find, okay, this is another thing that interested me with the film. It's just the idea, like, okay, if we all know the story, Kyle Reese was sent back in time to protect Sarah Connor from the Terminator. Because, she was a defenseless woman. She was a defenseless young woman, down on her luck. She didn't really have a love life. She had a terrible job. But then it all changed when the Terminator came and tried to kill her and then murdered all of her loved ones. And it was just this huge chase just to save her or kill her to change the future. And in this timeline, it's revealed that Sarah Connor, her parents were killed by a Terminator. Or something like that. I don't remember what it truthfully was. But then, guess what? That Terminator was killed by another Terminator. And then that Terminator, told her he swore to protect her all his life, and all her life as well. And quite frankly, I think that is the story we should have gotten out of this film. We should have gotten that story of just, Sarah Connor growing up with a Terminator. That'd be such a twist, honestly. That'd be so goddamn cool. But no, we didn't get that, and quite frankly, the relationship between her and the T-101, I guess, is plausible. I guess it's kind of good, but it doesn't get much development outside of angsty teenager can't stand her robotic dad telling her, just fuck. You know? It just doesn't go farther than that, and it's any development, any emotions in it is just kind of weak at that point. Anyway, going back, and then it's just Kyle Reese freaking out like anybody would. It's just why is a Terminator protecting Sarah Connor, and then just him trying to attempt to kill the Terminator, just to deal with it, 5 minutes later, alright, fine, I guess I gotta deal with this bullshit, even though I don't know what the hell is going on. Frankly, we're already off on a bad note for Terminator Genesis. We have some good notes, the concept of just, time paradoxes and butterfly effects, and even as well, the idea of Sarah Connor being raised by a T-101 is, being protected by T-101 from childhood is quite nice. But, again, it's just that first 20 minutes plays out as Terminator 1, but now there's a time travel effect, and it just doesn't work. Because we're basically retelling the same story, and we're also saying we don't give a shit about the first story, quite frankly, at this point. They're just trying to do something different. And that is definitely true once they finally go into another future. They go 16 years or something? 9 years, 16 years or some shit, just before Skynet goes online. And then it's John Connor of all people show up in the hospital. Just, rescue them and all that. But then it's revealed that he's some sort of Terminator. Ooh. I don't know, that reveal was just not that big of a deal. I remember I was watching a video, I think it was an abridged commentary or something about the original Terminator. And it's just some people were talking oh yeah, Genesis is coming out, that movie's gonna be shit. Isn't that the one where John Connor's a Terminator? And I'm what? So I'm fuck it, I gotta watch this movie now just to see how bad it is. I don't understand why John Connor just makes that big of a deal. I get it. He is the son of Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor. And of course it also makes sense, just make it twisty. But again, it just, there's no pacing to it. It kind of just happens. And it just also happens right in front of the T-101 as well. The T-101 at this point, he's just a pet. By the third movie that he's just helping the Connors family, he's just a pet. He's not even a loyal he's not even a loyal servant or even a good friend that becomes a good friend. He's just a pet. And yeah, he acts like a father, but again, he just doesn't bring it. And that's not because of Arnold, that's just because that's what everybody likes to see with the Terminator at this point. They either like to see a good loyal pet that helps the main character, or just a killing machine that dies in maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 scenes later. And then it just, the rest of the movie, up until the third act, even until the finale, just, it lost me. But I had to watch through it because I'm there's gotta be something salvageable with this movie, and there just isn't. Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor, they barely get any development, and quite frankly, the only things I was laughing at was the Terminator just trying to give the most ugliest smile he ever could in a picture. The ugliest thing I'd ever seen, and it got me to laugh a couple times. There was a joke around I don't know, the halfway mark that made me laugh, actually, but I forgot what that even was. And don't even get me started on John Connor. Oh, man. Oh. Just what they did with John Connor in this movie, like, okay, so you have him as a boy, and then you have him on the run as, like, some drug addict that's just, like, you know, he has no relationship with the human world at this point. And then you have him as the leader of the Resistance. Now you have him as a backstabbing Terminator. And it's just like, hey, Skynet is actually pretty cool. Come join me. We can all be a family again. There's nothing really piques my mind when it comes to John Connor. He's just that bad. I didn't even like his, like, actual design for the Terminator skin. Let me actually look that up. But it's just in that fight between basically the Connors family and the Terminator. I don't know, just did not look that good at all. Looked pretty bad, honestly. I'm not gonna get a picture, but you all can look at it yourself because it's pretty ugly. Like, the 3D model of it, it's not as cool. It's not as cool as the original Terminator, and that's a fact as it is. But again, just... And the fight scenes were pretty much even less interesting compared to Salvation as well. Sometimes they happen too fast, or sometimes they just dragged on for quite too long, and nothing really happened. Like, you would think at this point, John Connor's just like, alright, I'm not convincing my future parents to actually join me with Skynet, so why not just kill them? Just kill them at that point and stop them from destroying Skynet. Can you do that? Can you just do that? Can you do something for once that is not just something like, haha, I'm gonna kill, yeet, nope. It's getting repetitive at that point. It's just getting very, very repetitive when it's happened like maybe 4 times, maybe 4 different times between 4 different movies. Basically from Terminator 2 all the way to this. Terminator 2 had that shit. You can't lie to me. Anyway. Then it's just like, you know, they get stuck in the vault after Skynet is destroyed. Also, I can't even say much about that artificial intelligence. Basically, Skynet growing up and just like rapidly growing, and he's the one that caused John Connor to become a Terminator and all that shit, going back to the past and then to the future and back and forth and back and forth. It's like, where is the consistency with this movie? Because there is none. They basically dropped the time travel shit after they went into the future a second time. Or the first time, or whatever. There's just no consistency. Also, I just remembered the joke that I absolutely liked from Genesis. It's the scene where they were basically on the Golden Gate Bridge, I believe, and just like the Terminator just like goes head first into a police car, and he just looks at the officer and he's like, hello, get out. Hello, no. It was like, hello again, get out. That one actually made me quite laugh. That joke definitely made me laugh for quite a while, because it's just like, and his hair made him look like an especially older man than usual, because first he had brown hair in the past, then he had gray hair, and he got more wrinkles, so it's like, he just looks like an old man just having the time of his life, just head first into a police car. Oh god, but then the rest of that scene was god-awful. Like, that action scene made no sense. Would I say, though, it's one of the worst car chase scenes? No, because I think Salvation has the weakest car chase scenes out of the entire series. Oh, God. What else? Can I think of anything else to say about this dumpster fire? Oh, yeah, I guess, basically, the T-100 basically evolving into a T-1000 and saving Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese. And then, what is it? Oh, right, I forgot. They even had a younger Kyle Reese in that future as a boy, and they basically meet him in the finale, and yet Kyle Reese from the future tells Kyle Reese in the past, hey, Skynet will go online at this time such and such, even though they just stopped it. So something tells me, like, between this and, like, what happened with Terminator 3, there's literally no stopping Skynet from actually happening or some shit. Like, I don't understand why he told him that stuff. Like, he could have said something hopeful and, like, you know, that could have maybe wrapped up the movie a little more decenter, a little better. But no, he's just like, Skynet will go online. And I'm like, why? Why are we repeating this again? Why are we repeating time? Quite frankly, I can't say anything else good about Genesis. I really can't. Outside of the possibility I'd really love to see a full story about Sarah Connor just like living with a T-101. I'd really love that. And I appreciate the idea that they went through it, just like, time travel does have its limitations and its massive effects as well. I think that is good, but the way they just pulled it off, they basically repeated everything from the first 4 films. And that's just not good enough. You should have done something a little fresher. But again, it's just, this is the whole thing. You're not going to get anything outside of Skynet. Like, what else is a threat until Dark Fate? Which I guess we can get into Dark Fate in a minute, but anyway. To wrap up Genesis, dumpster fire of a film, by far the worst movie. I will say this movie is more baffling compared to Rise of the Machines. Like, holy shit. Ooh, oh man. Alright. I'm done talking about Genesis, so let's get on to the last film, Terminator Dark Fate. So, this one, I definitely went in with a lot lower hope compared to Genesis, by far. And I'm gonna be honest, I was so scared. I'm like, I don't really want to watch Dark Fate. I really don't want to. I don't want to see how this goes. Like, I saw that there was a bit of positivity when it came out, and even read up on some reviews, but it's like, So I went in full hopelessness, and it's like the first thing that I see is John Connor getting shotgun blasted in the face by a Terminator on the beach shore, and Sarah Connor just can't do shit about it. I'm like, oh damn, oh no, because I remember reading an interview where, no, not an interview, a review back then where it said, like, one of the most, like, controversial things that this movie did was actually killing off John Connor early. So I'm like, wait, are we talking, like, John Connor in the future or John Connor when he's a boy? And that was answered once I saw Dark Fate. I'm like, damn, they just killed John Connor in the past. That's actually quite impressive, really. Like, that is a definite change. Like, that's big. That's super big. And then it just, like, it cuts, like, what, 20 years or something later. Then we get to meet... Again, I gotta look up names because I don't even remember the main character's name. I don't even remember it because she's... I won't say forgettable, but she's just a cookie cutter of Sarah Connor. She's a cookie cutter. Yeah, Danny Ramos. Yes, Danny. Yeah, like, Danny, I guess, was a decent character for a main character in a Terminator franchise. Like, she's at least the first brand new one in 6 films. Because when you really think about it, it's only been about 3 different characters. Sarah Connor, John Connor, and Kyle Reese. Sarah's been a main character in basically 3 films. John Connor was important in 2, 3, Salvation, I guess if we even want to count Genesis, 4 films, and Kyle Reese 2 films. So it's like, there's been no, and I guess also Marcus Wright was also a main character as well from Salvation, but just another lead that basically took up the Sarah Connor scenario. I don't know, I guess it was a little refreshing, and I was a little interested in the backstory a little bit more, but again, we don't get that in a Terminator film. And especially, I'm pretty sure, yeah, this was directed by James Cameron. This was basically his return after Judgment Day, almost 2 decades later. And then also, what's that one lady's name? Grace? Was that it? Hold on. I'm trying to remember the one cybernetic enhanced human that went back. Yeah, Grace. Grace Harper, yeah. Basically the one that was sent back in time to protect Danny. And again, I'm going to be blanking on names quite a bit because, again, new characters sometimes do not always get a good start in the beginning. Anyway. So I guess to talk about new characters-wise before going back to old dog days, Danny as a character, she had a very, very interesting start to this movie. Like, I actually liked her character quite a bit, I don't know if she was like the younger sister or older sister of her brother. I'm pretty sure it was a younger sister, but like, she was trying to, like, I guess support her family, trying to support her brother as they were working in the same job and they were like getting taken over by machines doing their own job. I thought that idea was actually quite interesting. It really was, and I wanted to see more, like, just this whole family perspective that we truly didn't get until, like, Terminator 2, and it was kind of dropped after that. Like, it was a nice, fresh pace, honestly, just to see, like, a family kind of side. But then it all pretty much drops after, like, you know, after we get Grace, and then after, what's that one Terminator's name? The Rev 9? They really called it the Rev 9, huh? Yeah, they called it the Rev 9, but yeah, so it's like when Grace and the Rev 9 both come back to the past to, you know, one to kill Danny and one to protect her. It's like, you know, that was actually quite shocking. I was actually quite impressed with that introduction. And then the car chase scene was super good as well. I'm not gonna lie, that car chase scene, the first one, super amazing, super great. And it was actually, I felt bad for Danny's brother. I actually felt so bad for Danny's brother. They're like, what was his name? Hold on. It is credited here. You gotta show me the credits. Yeah, Diego Ramos? Diego Ramos? Yeah. Like, you know, I actually felt bad for him, and I felt bad for Danny because it's like, you know, nobody survives a Terminator killing all loved ones before hitting the head honcho, the one they are prioritizing to kill. So I think that was quite good, honestly. I'm like, damn. So it basically repeats Terminator 1, but it feels more impactful, you know? Because in Terminator 1, you had, like, the only family Sarah truly had before John was, you know, her mother, and she was off-screen. She was killed off-screen, and the Terminator was impersonating her. And then, of course, she also had, like, a roommate and her lover and all that, so she didn't really have family to stick around with. Danny had, and that was basically Danny's life, and the fact that it was taken away from her by the Rev 9 / Terminator. Quite sad. It's actually quite refreshing. So, yeah, we're already off to a decent start with Dark Fate, but let me be honest, as soon as Sarah Connor shows up and we get these weird, like, shit going on with Gracie, I'm just gonna call her Gracie at this point. I don't know, this is when the movie kind of takes a little bit of a dip for me. So, we basically get this trio of women all coming from, like, different backstories and all that. So, you got Sarah Connor, who's been hunting Terminator since John Connor was killed back in, like, I don't know, 20 years ago. You got Danny, who just lost all her family to a now-chasing Terminator. And you got Gracie, who was sent back from the future, fighting a different organization called Legion to protect Danny for no apparent reason, it seems like. And they all basically butt heads with each other. Mostly Gracie and Sarah, because, you know, Sarah doesn't trust Gracie because, you know, she's cybernetically enhanced. She thinks she's a Terminator. But she's not. Which is weird, honestly, in my opinion. But again, it just, like, it makes some decent conflict, but it kind of goes out the door after, like, maybe, I don't know, the first scene where they're all together, truthfully. Anyway. Where do I go after that? I guess I can talk about, I want to talk about the Rev 9 a little bit. I want to talk about the Terminator Rev 9. So, for one thing, I liked the actor Gabriel Luna, the guy that played the Terminator. He was actually quite cool, I will admit. He's known T-1000, and I felt like he was pulling a few too many strings from the T-1000, but I think character-wise, just, you know, not expertly, I guess killing efficiently-wise, it's quite interesting, like, being able, it's basically that weird mixture between a T-100 and a T-1000, where it's just like, you know, the human skin, the outer skeleton, basically can, like, shape-shift out, and just, like, change, basically let the exoskeleton do the fighting on its own, while the other one does, I don't know how it works, actually, I need to look this shit up, hold on. I'm just too interested now as soon as I come back to this. Android Assassin. Well, that doesn't help me. I need explanation here. History. Terminator model. There's literally nothing. Oh, God. Yeah, I don't understand what the point of this is, but yeah. Yeah, so basically it says exoskeleton and liquid metal humanoid. So basically, liquid metal humanoid exterior. So basically that means, like, you know, it's that weird fusion between a T100 and a T1000, which I think is actually quite cool. That is actually quite a cool idea, even though it's taking already two existing things that have already been milked to death, and at least gives it a little bit of fresh air, just a little bit, not too much, because it does dry out after like the first two encounters with the Rev 9. But anyway, I think the next scene... Oh, I guess we could talk about Sarah Connor as well for a bit as well. She does not get any importance in this film. I'm gonna be quite frank. I don't think she lives up to the hype that she was supposed to returning back since Terminator 2. I don't think she lived up to it, quite frankly. I feel like she was like one of the weaker points of this film. More weaker than Gracie. And let me put it this way. So, I like the idea that she was basically sent like a bunch of text messages and calls for like 20 years saying like a Terminator is gonna drop over in this side of the world or on this side of the country. You go kill it, and she just goes and kills it. I don't know. I don't remember if it was specified how many she's killed since like the 20 years between basically when John Connor was killed and then just before the events of Dark Fate. But I'm pretty sure that that's got to be a pretty good high kill count for Terminators. But again, it's just like, they're basically playing a bit off of how Terminator 2 was, where, you know, she had to meet a lot of professionals, a bunch of like military-grade soldiers and experts and like leaders and generals and commanders, and taught her how to fight, taught her how to kill, what weapons to use and all that. And it's like, they played on that a little bit in this film, where freaking, you know, they were in that prison, it's in that border patrol prison, and like, there's this asshole suit guy just being like, Sarah Connor, well, if it ain't my lucky day, you're gonna be live on television yet again, like you were on MTV. Top 1,000 dangerous criminals in the world. And that was the only time we ever get to see, like, anything outside of Sarah Connor's life. Like, I feel like for one of the two interesting stories we could have gotten out of this film, this is definitely one of those I'd really love to see, like, played on more. Just the idea of Sarah Connor becoming a Terminator hunter. It'd be so goddamn cool, because you gotta realize, this is not the same timeline. This is affected in some way, like something happened in this timeline. And I agree with the fact, as much as it is... No, I just agree with the fact that Terminator Dark Fate is a sequel to Genesis. Because it's basically, it's what happens when the timeline is changed, but we kind of don't know how it was changed. Like, you know, did something happen in Terminator 1 that didn't exactly play off that we know? And it turned out to be like, you know, a Terminator was able to kill John Connor out of the blue? Again, it's hard to tell, because then this movie also says, like, yeah, Skynet was stopped, but then this alternate reality, whatever bullshit, then brought us into, like, the Legion? The organization that Casey was fighting, not Casey, Gracie was fighting in the future. It wasn't Skynet, it was Legion, and they had their own Terminators, and Gracie had her own resistance that she was a part of, and she had to come back to the past to protect Danny, and stop the Terminator that was sent back in time from the Legion. It's kind of unoriginal when you really think about it at that point, once you find out, like, why Gracie came back to the past and why this is all happening. It feels less and less unoriginal when you think about it. Except for the part that, you know, she was, like critically injured, like, humongously injured one day in a battle. So she had to basically go through, like, cybernetic surgery. And now she has to keep up, like, putting orange juice through her body or something, like liquids. I never truly understood how that worked. But again, there's some interesting ideas among, like, you know, just this idea of, like, an alternate reality where Skynet didn't happen, but Legion happened. By the way, boring name for an organization. And then it's like Sarah Connor hunting Terminators for the next, like, 20 years, being sent text messages by a stranger, by somebody she's never been able to, like, fully know who it was. And then... yeah. Also, the prison fight scene was actually pretty cool. That was actually a pretty good one. Like, holy shit, dude. Just the Rev 9 going ham on, like, 20 military-grade officers. Holy shit, dude. That was actually pretty intense. That was brutal as shit, and I loved it. That was so cool, honestly. And then it's just like, you know, he's just like, he comes out of the incident, like, he's like, oh shit, what the fuck happened here? And he just talks to the county officers, and he's like, you boys have a mighty fine night. Oh, by the way, where did I get a fancy helicopter at? That scene was actually pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. That may have been a T-1000 moment, but damn, dude, that was good. That was good, honestly. And then we get into my second or third favorite thing about this movie. And it's like, again, it's the other story we could have gotten out of this film besides Sarah Connor becoming a Terminator hunter, which is the idea that the Terminator that killed John Connor a long time ago basically he didn't go into hiding, he just raised a family. Now, this needs a little bit of context. I don't believe Terminators can reproduce, even though they have their human forms. They have, like, their human exterior body. And of course they got schlongs. We know this from Terminator 1. They will have schlongs. Or vags, if they're women, like Terminator 3. But, it's just the idea that, you know, after the T-100 went back in time to kill John Connor and succeeded, Skynet basically told him, mission accomplished. Now, go do your own thing. We're done with you. You did your job, so, go have fun. And it's just this idea that the T-100 kind of didn't have something to do for a little while, because it's like, what was the purpose now since he wasn't a killing machine? But then he found this, like, mother and baby just getting, like, literally abused by this alcoholic drug husband. And he's just like, he killed the man, or probably put him in a coma or some shit. He messed him up. It basically just decided, I'll raise this family. You know, I'll help this mother, I'll help the child, I'll grow with him. You know, it's heartfelt. It's something more different than, like, what we've gotten between Terminator 2 and even Terminator Genesis, where it's like, you know, Genesis, the Terminator, the T-100 was basically a father figure, in a sense, to Sarah, which I'd still love to pay to see that movie. And then Terminator 2, where it's just like, you know, the T-101 was just a guardian to John Connor, and just, like, learned from him how to sort of become human. This is literally the opposite of both those films, where the T-101 is just, he's acting like a father. He's just a father. He acts like a normal human. He runs his own business. He goes out. He, like, goes on vacations with his family. Like, this man, this machine, literally became a man. And I just want that story so much. Holy shit, I really want that. That story, I just want to see. I'd want to see, like, I've been thinking this in my head, like, imagine, like, it's called Terminator Dark Days After. And it's just like, we get to see the scene again where the Terminator kills John Connor. And it's like, he's going off into the beach shore after he kills him. And you just see, like, you know, just a guitar riff and rock and roll, like funky shit music playing in the background as the Terminator is now, like, Skynet just telling him, mission accomplished, now go have fun. And you get this montage of the Terminator just not knowing what to do. It sounds horrible, I know, because it's literal child murder before that, but still. There is no boundaries with this series at this point. There's literally no boundaries. Because they straight up killed a child, okay? They didn't kill a child in any other film. On screen, I should say. So, quite frankly, sky's the fucking limits at this point. But anyway, going back to Dark Fate. Going back to just that whole scene of the Terminator raising a family. I love that. I honestly love that. That is my favorite thing out of this film, by far. But then, it's also that conflict at the beginning where it was revealed the Terminator was the one sending Sarah Connor those messages about other Terminators coming to the past to kill people. And she's literally just like a shotgun shell away from killing him. I love that, honestly. That conflict is quite nice. Like, she took no second to literally pull out her gun and nearly shoot the man in his own house. And Gracie had to stop her. And then Danny had to just, like, sort of talk her out of it, had to, like, calm her down and all that. But Sarah Connor was still a hard ass about it for the entire movie. And I'm like, oh, man. This is Terminator 2, but, like, real overdrive shit. Like, Sarah didn't trust the Sarah didn't really trust the Terminator up until, like, the finale of Judgment Day. But this Sarah Connor does not give a fuck about this Terminator. Does not. Not even in the finale. Not even when he sacrifices himself to actually kill the Rev 9 Terminator. Which again, I'm still curious why they called it the Rev 9. I might look that up later. But anyway. I just wish... I want a movie. I just want that movie where the Terminator lives his life out after completing his mission. If he killed Sarah Connor, or if he killed John Connor, or even Kyle... Nah, not Kyle Reese doesn't... No, nobody gives a shit about Kyle Reese. Anyway. So it just comes to that point where, like, you know, they gotta, I guess, stop Legion or stop this Terminator. I forgot who they were truthfully stopping by this point in the movie. Like, we're already, I don't know, like an hour into the movie, something like that. And I think it's just the Rev 9. It's not even Legion. Like, Legion... I don't know where Legion is in this movie. What's the Legion organization even about, actually? Hold on. This may lag a bit on, you know, after recording, but I just have to know. Dark Fate, Legion. What is Legion? Equivalent of Skynet. Okay, but can you give me more than that? Can you give me more than Legion? Program designed for cyber warfare and highly advanced computer system possessing artificial intelligence. Equivalent. What? Hunter killers and Terminator units such as Rev 7 to hunt down and terminate survivors. For its destruction, Legion developed time travel technology and we used to send back a Rev 9 infiltrator in order to terminate Danny, who was a threat to its existence. So Legion is kind of just in the background. We don't even know what Legion does at this point. It's a real Terminator 1 instance where, you know, we have the Terminator chasing Sarah Connor, but we really don't get much other inclusion about Skynet. Like, we get tidbits and information about who Skynet is, but we don't get any other confrontation with them outside of what the Terminator they sent. So I guess that makes sense, honestly. That does make sense, to be quite honest, but... I can't help the fact that we are just literally repeating the same movie again. Dark Fate is just almost cookie-cutter Terminator 1. Almost. Trying to think. At this point in the film, I'm kind of slowly losing my interest with Dark Fate. Like, as soon after, as they start, like, you know, I guess, you know, getting guns or getting information and stuff, that's when the movie, for me, I'm like, ugh, it's gonna be a bit of a slugfest just to get to the finale. And I'm gonna be quite honest, like, the two things I did not like right after that scene was the, basically, military chase scene, where they get into a military-grade aircraft, and then, you know, like, you know, they're just kind of just need to get the Rev 9 off their plane. And it kind of doesn't make any sense. That fight didn't make any sense at all. But then the second thing that happened after that is just why Gracie has to protect Danny. Because up to this point, we don't know how important Danny is. She literally just straight up says, so what? Do I need to fuck a man just to have a baby to save the future? Is my baby supposed to protect the future like Sarah was supposed to with John? And Gracie straight up like, no, because you're the leader of the resistance. You're the one that gave us a fighting chance. And at that moment, I'm like, okay, I guess that's a twist. I guess that's different. But the delivery and the impact of it up to that point, just, it kind of fizzled. Like, it didn't really hold anything. Danny up to that point, like, yeah, she kind of had interesting development, like, you know, trying to deal with the grief, losing her family to the Rev 9, and trying to figure out, like, why Gracie is protecting her from the Rev 9, why even Sarah Connor at that point as well. But it just didn't make sense up until that point, until Gracie literally just told her, you are the reason why, in the future, we get a fighting chance against the Legion. I'm like, that could have literally been anything different, and it probably would have not impressed me less. It would have less impressed me. So that's the point of the film where I'm like, okay, I'm dropping quite a bit of points here. I'm dropping points for this film because it's like, the impact of that line, and the impact of that scene, especially of that flashback where Gracie was a little child, and Danny was like a lot older, I don't know, it kind of didn't help, considering Gracie was older than freaking... Yeah, Danny was older than Gracie. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting lines at this point. I'm just forgetting lines. I mean, lines? Names. Anyway. And then, of course, we get into the last fight, where I guess it's, like, at Hoover Dam. Hoover Dam? Yeah, I'm gonna say Hoover Dam. Isn't that the only place where it's, like, it has, like, God biggest, like, waterfall outside of, like, any other mountains in the world? Something like that. I don't know my architecture. That fight alone, I could have seen better. Like, Sarah Connor and Danny just, you know, trying to fight the Rev 9 together while, I guess, Gracie was taking a bath in the river. Could have been any better. I did feel bad for the T-800. T-800? The T-100. I swear, man. This man literally just had to leave his family because he knew this shit would happen one day. And he's just getting his ass whooped by yet another superior Terminator. Like, god damn. Can a T-100 get a break for once? Can he just raise a family and just live his own life until he's like 120 and then he just like shuts down? Nope, not at all. Because this is Terminator, and he's basically become a pet at this point. He was a father for like 20 years, and now he's a pet, again. Just like Genesis. Anyway. The scene also where he was just like, did a superhero landing with a gun in his hand, and he lost his right arm. I guess that was cool, but again, no impact whatsoever. The final fight, I will give credit. It was quite cool, because it had basically everybody fighting. And by everybody, I mean literally everybody. You had Gracie with, like, the chain sickle, as you can see on the poster. That fight was actually kind of cool with that weapon. Then you had Danny trying to fight as well. I don't even know what she was using. She might have had a gun. I don't remember. She might have had a pipe, though, if anything. Sarah with her shotgun. The shotgun, by the way, that the Terminator used to kill John. And then just, you know, the Terminator doing Terminator stuff. It was a cool fight, and I loved how the Rev 9 got stuck in that weird, like, what was it? What is it? It's like a generator. It's like a spinning generator thing. And it's just like, you know, it just exploded after taking enough damage. I thought that was actually quite cool, honestly. And then after that, it was just like, you know, Danny had to, like, use the power core within Gracie to destroy the Rev 9. And it's just like Danny just screaming at that T-1000 exoskeleton. I'm just like, hot damn, dude. Hot damn, that's actually quite cool, honestly. But then, of course, sadly, we had to get the sacrifice again of yet another T-100. We can just... It's so funny to think, the only pet Terminator out of the entire franchise, the only one that has truly lived, is the Genesis one. And he got a T-1000 bath as well. It's quite sad, honestly. Because I actually like... I think between, like, you know, Terminator 2 T-100 and Dark Fate, I have to say, it's a tie between both those T-100s I really like the most out of the other ones. And I can't really even count Terminator 1 Terminator because, you know, he didn't become human. He was just a killing machine. And then after that, just, you know, the big sacrifice, and then... Who was the kid? Oh, they did the same thing with Genesis again, where they basically, like, at the end, Danny and Sarah went to go see a younger Casey. Like a child of Casey. Not a child of Casey, basically younger Casey, before the future. And then they just, like, drive off into the distance because Danny now has to learn how to fight by Sarah Connor so she can protect the future from Legion once they come. Again, just, there's really good stuff with this film, and I want to credit James Cameron for it, but it's like, it's almost a cookie cutout. It's more than just a cookie cutout. I feel like, personally, Dark Fate plays it the safest out of any other Terminator films, even Genesis for that matter. They play it just a little too safe. Well, actually, maybe not as safe as Genesis, because Genesis literally does not want to fucking kill anybody except the bad guys. Nice, and they'll just kill off any jobbers on the side. But anyway, Dark Fate, I feel like it plays it just a little too safe. It plays it safe with the fact that, you know, they technically needed two Terminators to protect Danny. They needed two of them. And they also needed 2 Terminators, basically, to go back in time to kill Danny as well. And again, Sarah Connor, for me, was also the weakest point of the film, because it's like, after, basically, her introduction and trying to get along, basically, with Gracie, and then also trying to deal with the fact that she is face-to-face with the killer of her son, it's kind of tough to just think, like, what else can Sarah Connor do at this point outside of, like, fighting and shooting? Literally nothing. So I'm not saying it's terrible, but again, I just feel like she was the weak point. For all the hype it was, like, oh my god, Sarah Connor's coming back after literally 20 years. I wasn't really impacted that much. Like, I remember watching the trailers, but again, I did not watch Terminator by the point Dark Fate. Like, no films after Dark Fate that I ever watched up until this year. And honestly, just those 2 scenes alone in the beginning, and then when Bob, we're gonna call him Bob, shows up. I should have been calling him Bob this entire time. Basically shows up into the picture, and she's like, she cannot stand this. Why is she is not gonna be fighting alongside Terminator. I feel like in between all the rest of that stuff, meh. Kinda meh. She's not really a mentor. I guess she's just a very, like, hard-ass, cranky old woman that's angry for a good reason, obviously, but still, she doesn't get more than that, in my opinion. She really doesn't. Maybe also because, again, I don't want to blame the actress. I don't want to blame, what's her name again? Because I know it's the same actress from Terminator 2, just much older. Linda Hamilton? Yeah, Linda Hamilton. Yeah, Linda Hamilton, like, I don't want to blame her for it, but it's like, I don't know. She wasn't working with much this time around. I feel like much to Terminator 2 at that matter. But anyway. Like I said, Dark Fate kind of plays it the safest. They kind of played much like Terminator 1, even though they want to go all out with, like, chase scenes and action. And it's more than welcome, but in my opinion, it's not good. Would I say it is better than Genesis? By a lot. And is it better than Terminator 3? Also by a lot. Is it better than Salvation? That's where I draw the line, honestly. Because again, I praise Salvation, and I use praise lightly. I use the word praise lightly. I give Salvation praise because it's the most original out of the modern trilogy of Terminator films. It doesn't do the go back in time bullshit. It doesn't include anything like, sure, it heavily references the first 3 movies a lot, but that's necessary. That is necessary for the fact because, those 3 films basically led up to Salvation. That led it up, like, the day after Judgment Day, and the human resistance was still shackled. They were still cracked and all that. They didn't have the fighting force that they had, that we know them for. They didn't have that until John Connor brought them together. Like I said, Salvation, not the best movie in the world, and it's by far a weak Terminator film, but I do feel like, personally, it's not as bad compared to Genesis or 3. Which, again, I'm going to get into Terminator 3 quite a bit in the other video, but I'm going to say, quite frankly, Dark Fate for me reaches 4th place in terms of Terminator films. Salvation still sticks with me with 3rd place until I rewatch it again, and maybe see if I could find a little more redeeming stuff for it outside of the 3rd act, because right now, that 3rd act is the best thing I saw out of this entire trilogy. Like, Dark Fate has some amazing stuff. I want to see more of Bob, the Terminator, and I even want to see Sarah Connor hunting other Terminators. But I think, like, outside of other possibilities, like what we get base movie-wise, Salvation has the best, and it only comes out of that 3rd half, that 3rd finale. So, that's basically all I have to say about these 3 films. Genesis is a goddamn dumpster fire. It's the worst film out of the entire franchise, and I'm glad I rented this shit. I'm glad I didn't buy it for $15 or whatever, so I'm glad. I'm glad at least, but I don't feel like rewatching it, but goddamn, dude. Holy shit. Dark Fate played it a little too safe, in my opinion. Played it just a little too safe. And then Salvation, it was lacking in a lot of departments on what makes a Terminator film good, but it was the most original. It kept the story going than just going back. That's all I gotta say. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. This is gonna be a first-parter for the Terminator Saga review series. Like, the next 3 films that we're gonna talk about are the original ones. Those will be coming out hopefully in a week or 2. In fact, it's the end of the month, and I gave my friend a deadline for the end of the month, so he should have that done. So, this is probably gonna go up first. Thank you all for watching. What do you all think about the Terminator series? What do you all think? If you have all watched the films or watched certain movies, and tell me why Genesis is just the absolute dumpster fire. Anyway, I'm Limoto Tomato, signing off, and until then.